I slept on Dad's couch because the stairs made his lungs scream. 10 steps, and he'd clutch the banister, eyes searching mine like he'd misplaced air. From the couch, I could hear the oxygen concentrator hum and cough at night, and get to him before the panic set in. My name is Aaliyah Thompson. I'm 29, and for the last 12 months my life fit into a simple loop. I worked the front desk at a neighbourhood clinic from 8 to 4:30, came home and did whatever my dad needed, pills sorted into a plastic organiser, dressings changed, laundry before the next spill, dinner he could swallow without starting a coughing jag. The house is a small 2-storey with steep stairs and no real hallway downstairs, just a living room that became my bedroom because the bedrooms are up top. I kept a blanket folded on the couch and a basket under the coffee table with my socks and scrubs. Dad was 64. COPD had taken his stamina and piece by piece his stubbornness. He gave up the cigarettes 3 years ago, too late to reverse the damage from construction dust and long shifts in unventilated spaces. He still sat on the porch at dusk when he could, that old habit hard to kill, but the walks got shorter. Bill's didn't. I kept the lights on and the heat steady because temperature swings set him off. I paid the water when the blue envelope came and the gas before the second notice. When the property tax bill hit in January, $872 for the year, I took my lunch break at the county building and paid it at a window where the clerk slid me a receipt under the glass. I wrote paid at the top with the date and tucked it into a shoebox I'd labelled house in black marker. Every bill went into that box with a paper clip and a sticky note if I needed to remember something. My sister Alexandra is 33. She's the kind of person who can dress a request in sugar and sell it twice. She started running errands for Dad when his energy flagged. Groceries, pharmacy, picking up odds and ends, using his debit card because it was simpler. She kept her tone sweet around him, and he let her. When I asked for receipts, she'd say they were in her car, or she'd text a photo later. Sometimes, later never came. I didn't have the energy to pick a fight every day. I focused on keeping him breathing and the house stable. In March, right after a rough winter cold that almost sent us to the ER, Dad sat me down at the kitchen table with a manila folder. "I don't want a circus," he said, voice sandpapery. "This house goes to you when I go, clean." No fighting. He'd heard about transfer on death deeds from a neighbour whose brother had died. We drove to the county recorder's office on a Tuesday I'd taken off. He signed in front of a notary, I signed where I was supposed to as beneficiary, and we paid the recording fee. A clerk stamped it and handed me a copy with the book and page numbers printed along the top. I put that copy in the manila folder and slid it behind the shoebox. Hospice started in April. Lara Martinez, the nurse, came twice a week with a calm voice and a bag that held more comfort than anything I could buy. Fingerpole socks, morphine for the worst days, tips that made the nights less terrifying. She wrote notes on a carbon copy pad and left one with me. "You're doing it right," she said once, seeing the couch blanket and the way I'd lined up his meds by time of day. It felt like someone putting a hand on my shoulder and pressing the worry down. Jack Edwards across the street saw the routines too. He'd wave when I dragged the trash bin out ahead of Dad's clinic appointments, and once dropped off a rake when the leaves got ahead of me. The block stayed gentle around us, even when my phone lit up with family opinions. Aunt Teresa, Dad's older sister, meant well in the way that keeps people polite and stuck. "Keep it in the family," she'd say over the phone, meaning not just sharing casseroles, but decisions. I'd say, "I'm here. I'm taking care of him," and go back to filling the humidifier. June came, then the call in the early morning from Lara that it was time to gather who needed to be there. It was quiet. He went at home, in the chair by the window he liked, with my hand around his, and the oxygen machine clicking to a stop when I unplugged it. The funeral was 2 days later, small and honest. People hugged and I let them. The night before the burial, I took the deed folder and the latest tax receipt out of the shoebox and put them in my purse. It wasn't drama. It was muscle memory. If there's something you can carry that keeps things simple, you carry it. The morning after we put him in the ground, I came home from the coffee run, slid my key into the front door, and it didn't turn. The key slid in and stuck like a bad joke. I jiggled it, tried the old lift and turn trick that worked when the door swelled in summer, and nothing. Above the knob, a shiny deadbolt winked at me. There was a note taped at eye level in thick black marker. "Collect your junk by Thursday, A." I stood there with a cardboard tray of coffees cooling in my hand, breathing through the spike of heat behind my eyes. I set the drinks on the porch rail and knocked. The curtains were drawn, no footsteps. I tried my key again because denial is a muscle too. I called Alexandra. She picked up on speaker, her voice bouncing like she'd set the phone on the hall table. "Well, look who finally called." "I'm on the porch. My key doesn't work." "That's because the house is mine now," she said, and I could hear the smile in it. "You can keep your mess, but you're not moving back in." "The house isn't yours," I said, keeping my voice even. "Dad executed a transfer on death deed in March. It's recorded." "I have the copy." She laughed, light and mean. "Cute! I have the family on my side." "This isn't about a vote," I said. "I live here. My clothes are in the living room. I need my stuff and Dad's documents. Open the door." No," she said. "Also, I already called the police. Trespassing. They'll explain it to you." "Alexandra." "No." "You can pick up your junk by Thursday. I put a note." I looked at the note like it might change its mind. "I see it." "Good." "Then you know the deadline." A muffled rustle like she was moving the phone, then, "I don't want a scene. Get off my porch." She hung up. I stared at my reflection in the glass, hair pulled back, funeral makeup still clinging to the corners of my eyes. I took out my wallet and slid the manila folder from my purse, with the county stamp peeking out. The deed felt less like paper and more like an anchor. I knocked again, knuckles sore. "Alexandra, I just need clothes and Dad's paperwork," I said through the door. "I'm not here to fight." Silence. Then the scrape of a chair. A shadow moved through the curtain and disappeared. I texted her instead so there would be a trail. "I need clothes and Dad's documents. I have the recorded TOD deed. I intend to enter my home. Please open the door, or I will wait for the responding officer." 3 dots blinked and stopped. No reply. The street was quiet in that stretched way it gets the morning after a lot of talking. Jack's truck was in his driveway across the way, a crumpled newspaper bag at the end. A dog barked 3 doors down and then thought better of it. The coffee sweat ran down my fingers. I sat on the top step and pulled the second coffee free, set it on the mat for whoever opened the door first. I took out the tax receipt too, the one with $870 stamped paid, and tucked it under the deed in the folder so I wouldn't fumble later. The last month had taught me the difference between loud and effective. I didn't kick, didn't yell. I texted Aunt Teresa. "Alexandra changed the locks. I have the recorded deed and I live here, waiting for police to arrive. Please do not come over." She replied in a minute. "Don't put family business in the street. Work it out." I took a photo of the note with the Thursday and didn't send it to anyone. Inside, a door closed. Cabinets, maybe. The house sounded wrong with me on the outside. I could map the floor in my head. The couch where I slept, the basket with my socks, the drawer with Dad's insurance cards, the oxygen tubing curled like a sleeping snake. I pressed my palm flat on the wood like that would count for something. My phone buzzed again. "Alexandra. You have until Thursday. I will not be intimidated. Family is on my side." Then a second message. "They're on their way." Good. I texted back. "I'll wait on the porch." I took a breath, then another. I put the deed back in my purse, zipped it, and set the purse in my lap. Jack's front door creaked open. He stepped onto his porch in a faded t-shirt and nodded at me. I lifted a hand. He took in the note on my door and the new deadbolt. His mouth flattened. He didn't come over. He just sat on his steps, elbows on his knees, a quiet witness, like always. The squad car eased around the corner and rolled to the curb in front of the house, lights off, windows down. My heart thudded in that embarrassing way where you can feel it in your ears. I stood, smoothed my shirt, and picked up the folder. The driver door opened. Jack folded his arms and settled back, watching. The officer stepped onto the walk, hand resting near his belt, calm face, no rush. "Morning." "Who called?" "I did," Alexandra said through the door, voice bright. The deadbolt clicked, and she opened it just enough to lean in the frame. She's refusing to leave. She doesn't live here. He glanced at me, then at the note taped to the door. Okay. I'm Officer Russell Jensen. Let's slow it down. He looked at me. Ma'am, what's your name? Aaliyah Thompson. I live here. My dad passed last week. I have the recorded transfer on death deed. I held up the folder. He nodded. IDs from both of you? We handed them over. He checked the addresses, then gave them back. Tell me in one sentence each what's going on. Alexandra went first. My father died. I'm handling his estate, and she's trying to take over the house. The officer turned to me. Your sentence. My father died, and he recorded a transfer on death deed in March naming me. I've been living here caring for him, paying the bills. He let the silence sit for a second. All right. Who owns the house? It wasn't a trick question the way he asked it. It was a sort. I slid the deed out carefully and handed it to him with the property tax receipt clipped on top. The county stamp and book and page numbers ran along the top edge. Recorded March, I said. Here's the 89 semi-taler property tax receipt from January. He read, lips moving just enough to track, then keyed his radio. Dispatch 12 to 27. Can you confirm a recorded TOD deed at the recorder's office for this parcel? He gave the address and the document number printed on the copy. A pause, static, then a voice. Affirmative. Doc recorded March. Beneficiary Aaliyah Thompson. He nodded. Thank you. He looked back at Alexandra. Do you have any documents showing ownership? Court orders? Letters of administration? Anything naming you executor? I don't need papers, she said, chin up. I'm his oldest. He told me I could handle things. The family knows. This isn't a probate call then, he said, still even. Based on what I'm seeing, title passed on death to Ms. Thompson. Also, she's a current resident. You can't change locks to keep a resident out. That's an unlawful lockout. Any disputes about money between you two are civil, not criminal. So here's what's going to happen. Ms. Thompson is going inside. You're going to leave. If you believe you have a claim, file it in civil court. Her mouth open, then shut. This is ridiculous. She doesn't even have a death certificate. We don't need one for me to keep the peace at this address, he said. This is a civil matter. Today, I'm restoring possession to the resident. Alexandra looked past him at Jack on his porch. Jack didn't blink. I didn't smile. I just said, I need 10 minutes to grab clothes and Dad's documents. That's it. I'll stand by, Officer Jensen said. Ms. Thompson. He flicked his eyes to Alexandra. You can collect personal items later by arrangement. Not today. She scoffed and stepped back. Whatever. I'll see you in court. She grabbed her purse from the hall table, a flash of a new manicure when she lifted the strap. She cut me a look like a blade and pushed past the officer onto the porch. Inside, the house smelled like nothing. I kept my feet moving. I went straight to my basket under the coffee table, stuffed socks and a handful of shirts into a tote. The couch blanket went on top. The manila folder from the side table where I'd kept Dad's insurance cards slid into my bag. I opened the desk drawer where we'd stored his bank book and hospice notes. The drawer had been rifled, papers crooked, envelopes open. The slot where Dad's debit card usually sat next to the checkbook was empty. My phone buzzed in my back pocket. I thumbed the screen. 2 text alerts from the bank app we set up for his account when his hands started shaking. Card purchase, $58.40, nail studio. Card purchase, 126 by 113, boutique and co. My stomach went cold. I snapped a photo of the drawer and another of the empty card sleeve, then put the checkbook and the hospice notes into the tote. I grabbed the oxygen company's last statement, the shut-off notice I'd fended off in February, the utilities pile I hadn't sorted since the funeral. 10 minutes goes quick when you know where everything is. At the door, Officer Jensen stepped aside. You good? I'm good, I said. I looked at Alexandra on the sidewalk, her face set hard. I'll text you to arrange one pickup window for your personal items. It will be on the porch. No entry. She laughed without humour. I'll bring a lawyer. Do that, the officer said. He handed me a small card. Incident numbers on there. If there's further trouble today, call the non-emergency line and reference it. Thank you, I said. I meant it. He walked Alexandra to the curb and waited until she got into her car. She revved like a dare, then drove off. The street exhaled. I locked the door, set the deed on the kitchen table, and opened the receipt box like a parachute. I kept the folder open on the kitchen table and the receipt shoebox beside it. The quiet after Alexandra's car peeled away had weight. I took photos of the note on the door and the new deadbolt, then texted Alexandra. As discussed with Officer Jensen, I will arrange one pickup window by text, no entry. She read it and didn't reply. The family group chat lit up like a slot machine. Aunt Teresa first. We do not put out blood for the neighbourhood. Talk to your sister. I typed, I spoke to her. She changed the locks while I was at coffee. I live here and have the recorded deed. I attached a photo of the county stamp and the property tax receipt. No caps, no exclamation points. 2 cousins chimed in with variations of she's grieving, just share. I kept it short. I'm not fighting. I'm keeping the house stable. Utilities are paid. If you have questions, text me directly. Then I turned the chat on mute. My pulse slowed down just from the silence. Summer knocked once and let herself in, holding a cardboard cup holder and a yellow highlighter like a talisman. Hey, she said, eyes searching my face. You okay? I'm fine, I said, which was our shorthand for we can talk while doing something. I pointed to the shoebox. Help me sort? We spread the bills out by type. Power, water, gas, oxygen rental, hospice supplies I'd run out to get on Sunday nights when the online orders wouldn't arrive in time. The lawn guy who came twice after Dad's shortness of breath got bad, and I couldn't push the mower and watch him at the same time. Summer read out amounts. I wrote them down on a legal pad and clipped each to its bill. The stack looked like a tiny library. What's our number? She asked, sliding the highlighter across each total as if that made them more real. I added them twice, then again, because the brain fog after a funeral plays tricks. 2079, I said. Exactly. Summer exhaled. Okay, that's your caregiving run. It shows you lived here and kept the place going. She caught my eye. Different from what she spent, I nodded. I'm not asking to be reimbursed for keeping the lights on, I said. But the errands... I pulled my phone over and opened the bank app. The push alerts were stacked too high now. Nail studio, boutique & co, a gas station 18 miles away from our house, a food delivery service at 11 p.m, which I remembered wasn't for Dad because he couldn't eat greasy food and went to bed at 8. We should pull full statements, Summer said. Print them. Highlight the non-necessities. If there's groceries, we'll be fair, I breathed out. I took photos of the empty debit card sleeve in the drawer. I think she took it when I was at the funeral home. Summer rubbed the back of her neck. File small claims on the misuse, she said. Keep your house documents separate. Don't braid them together. Let the judge handle one clean issue. If they ask your relationship to the house, you have the deed. I don't want to call a lawyer, I said. You don't have to. The point is clean paperwork. She slid her phone over. The county portal lets you file online. Fees $95. I clicked through the page she had opened. Small claims. Plaintiff information. I filled in my name, the address, the incident description in plain words. Defendant used decedent's debit card for personal purchases labelled as errands without consent. Seeking reimbursement for specified transactions. No adjectives, just dates and merchant names. For now, I put to be supplemented, where it asked for the amount and typed the number we could already see on the alerts. We'd refine it when the statement's printed. I paid the $95 with my card and got a confirmation email with a case number and a hearing date 3 weeks out, a Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. in a courtroom I knew from jury duty, fluorescent lights, and a judge with a pencil who tapped when people talked over each other. Screenshot the confirmation, Summer said. Send yourself a copy of everything you upload. And don't argue online. She lifted an eyebrow. Seriously, don't. My phone buzzed again, not the bank this time, but a notification from social media. Alexandra had posted a photo from our front steps, the one from last Christmas with Dad wearing a Santa hat, captioned with, Some people steal houses. Don't worry, I'll bring the receipts to court. I put the phone face down. She's building a story, I said. Let her, Summer said. We're building a binder. She nodded at the printer on the desk. Do we have ink? Half a cartridge. I logged into the bank and fetched the last 3 months of statements. Pages rolled out, warm and thin, with their neat lists. Pharmacies, utility auto-pays, then sudden runs of nail studio, boutique and co. A high-end bakery I knew she liked. A salon across town she tagged herself in last month. In the memo line for a Venmo transfer out of the account, she'd actually typed errands. I highlighted each questionable line in yellow and wrote a one-word note in the margin. Nails, clothes, cake. For groceries, I circled them and wrote split in pencil. We wouldn't lie about food. Aunt Teresa texted again. I'm coming over, I replied. Please don't. Officer said keep it to text. I'll share documents with anyone who asks. The house felt steadier with paper in stacks and clips on corners. Summer finished her coffee and set the empty cup on the edge of the shoebox like a flag. I'll come back tonight if you want. We'll make sections, utilities, hospice, lawn, bank. Keep it simple. Come after 6, I said. I'm going to take a shower and then call the oxygen company to pick up the tanks. They don't belong here anymore. When she left, I turned the group chat off completely, then opened the bank statements again. The word errands popped up in a few memo lines like a joke only one person was laughing at. Manicures, boutique bags, not groceries, not gas on the way to Dad's appointments. I picked up the highlighter and kept going. I bought a cheap black binder and a pack of sticky tabs on my lunch break. After work, Summer came over with her highlighter and we turned the dining table into a timeline. January to June went down the right edge in blue tabs. Under each month, I slid the utility bills into sheet protectors, clipped the payment confirmations behind them, and stuck a small note on anything that needed context. Dad's oxygen flare-up week. Shut-off notice averted. Property tax, $8.72, paid. We made a separate section for hospice. Lara's carbon copies went in first. I texted her. Can you write a brief statement that I was living here and providing care? She called back. I can write something factual, she said. Dates of service, that you were his primary caregiver, that you slept downstairs because he couldn't. She emailed a paragraph on company letterhead 20 minutes later. It wasn't dramatic. It didn't need to be. I printed 2 copies and put one in the binder and one in a spare folder marked extras. Jack knocked with a sheet of paper in his hand around sunset. Figured you might need this, he said. He typed it and signed at the bottom, neat and simple, that he lived across the street, saw me mowing and hauling trash, saw the shut-off notice in February, and watched me come back from the utility office the same afternoon. No opinions, just what he'd seen. He slid it across the table. You don't have to use it, just in case. Thank you, I said. I'll put it under May. He glanced at the stacks and nodded, like the sight of order soothed something in him too. The bank statements got their own thick section. We printed 3 months and highlighted the runs of charges that didn't line up with Dad's needs. For groceries, I circled in pencil and wrote split next to them. For the salon, I wrote nails. For the boutique, clothes. For a bakery box that I knew was for Alexandra's friend's party, cake. It felt a little petty to see it stacked like that, but it was cleaner than anger. We weren't guessing. We were labelling. I sent Alexandra one text that night. I will set one pickup window for your personal items by text. No entry until then. All communication in writing. She read it. No reply. 2 nights later, at almost 9, someone pounded hard enough to rattle the picture frames. I looked through the peephole. Alexandra stood on the porch, with a man a step behind her, tall and thick through the shoulders. Kenneth, from the handful of times I'd seen him in photos. I need my things, she yelled. Open the door, I typed instead of talking. This is not the pickup window. You were told it will be by text, no entry. She pounded again. You can't keep my stuff. I'm not, I said through the door, even and loud enough to be heard. You'll get a date and time. Boxes on the porch. That's it. Kenneth leaned in close to the glass and cupped his hands around his face to look inside. "We can do this the easy way or the hard way," he said, like a line from a show. I put my phone on video and set it on the entry table facing the door. "You're being recorded," I said. "Please leave." She screamed then, not words, more frustration finally finding air. I wrote the time down on a notepad, 8:53 p.m. Pounding. Screamed on porch with boyfriend. Then I called the non-emergency number on Officer Jensen's card. "Non-emergency! What's going on?" I gave the incident number and the address. "Family member I've told not to come by is pounding on my door. There's an open civil matter. I'm documenting and asking them to leave." "Are they trying to get in?" "They're pounding and yelling. No attempted entry yet." "Okay," the dispatcher said. "Keep your door locked. Ask them to leave one more time. If they don't, we can send a car to educate and document. Keep everything in text if you can." I sent a final message. "Leave now. All contact is by text. Pickup window will be scheduled later. No entry." Alexandra read it. Kenneth muttered something I couldn't catch. They stood there another minute, then stomped back down the steps. I wrote the time again and saved the video. Summer texted, "Want me to come over?" I sent her a photo of the notepad and wrote, "I'm okay." Non-emergency said keep documenting. The rest of the week settled into the business of endings. The oxygen company picked up the tanks. I updated the gas and power accounts into my name and took screenshots. Aunt Teresa called twice. I let both go to voicemail and texted back summaries so there was a record. When the court emailed a notice asking for exhibits to be listed ahead of time, I typed out a simple list: utilities, hospice notes, neighbour statement, bank statements with highlighted charges. I added one more tab at the front of the binder labelled Deed. The recorded transfer on death copy went under it with the property tax receipt clipped on top. It felt like putting a spine in the whole thing. On the Tuesday set on my confirmation email, I woke up early. I wore plain black slacks and the only clean blouse without a coffee stain. Summer met me in the courthouse parking lot with a granola bar and a second pen. We didn't rehearse. We didn't need to. We took the elevator up, found the right door, and sat on a wooden bench under buzzing lights. At 8:56, Alexandra strode through the security line with Kenneth behind her, a purse big enough to hold proof if there was any swinging off her shoulder. She didn't look at me. Fine. I put the binder on my lap, my hands flat on the cover, and waited for our names. The bailiff called our case and we walked to the tables. The lights hummed the way they do in waiting rooms and supply closets. The judge glanced at a docket, then at us. "Plaintiff?" "Here," I said. "Aaliyah Thompson." "Defendant?" "Alexandra Thompson," she said, chin lifted. Kenneth sat in the back row, spread out like a personal bodyguard. "Small claims," the judge said, voice even. "One person at a time, no crosstalk. Ms. Thompson, plaintiff, you first. What are you asking for and why?" I opened my binder to the first tab. "I'm asking for reimbursement of specific debit card charges my sister made using our father's card for her personal expenses, which she labelled errands." I slid a thin packet to the clerk, a one-page summary with dates and merchants and a total at the bottom. I've highlighted the transactions and attached the bank statements. The judge flipped through the packet, then looked up. "Start at the beginning." "My dad died last week," I said. "I lived with him and cared for him. In March, he recorded a transfer on death deed naming me as the beneficiary of the house." I tapped the front tab. "That's background, not what I'm suing for. I'm not asking to be reimbursed for taking care of him. For context, I did pay utilities, lawn care, and hospice supplies over the last months. $2,079 total. Those receipts are here. But today I'm asking for repayment of errand charges that weren't for his needs." The judge nodded once. "Total amount you're seeking?" $2,050, I said, before any adjustments for shared groceries. "All right," the judge said. "What do you have to show they were not for his benefit?" I turned to the bank statement section and slid the stack forward. Yellow lines glowed across certain entries. Example: April 22nd, nail studio, $58.40. My dad couldn't use his hands for much by then. This isn't his charge. May 3rd, Boutique & Co., $126.13. He didn't shop for clothes there. May 14, Bakehouse, $42.90, which was for a party Alexandra posted about. There's also a Venmo transfer of $250 labelled errands. The grocery charges I've circled. I don't know what part of those were for him. I'm open to splitting where fair. The judge read with the pencil still. And the card was in whose possession? It was kept in the desk drawer. I found the drawer rifled after the funeral, and the card gone. I have photos from that day. I held up the prints. The judge glanced, then set them atop the statements. The judge turned to Alexandra. Ms. Thompson, defendant, your turn. What's your response? I was the executor, she said. I handled his errands, gas, groceries, things she didn't do. She gestured toward me without looking. Is there a probate case? The judge asked. Letters of administration. Anything showing you were appointed? No, Alexandra said, impatience edging in. He told me. We don't decide title here, the judge said, calm but clipped. But for context only. Is there a transfer on death deed? I slid the recorded copy to the clerk. The judge read the stamp and the book and page number, then set it aside. Again, title is not before me, she said. I'm here on a money dispute. Exactly, Alexandra said. I spent on the house. Receipts for your errands? The judge asked. Anything to show gas for his appointments. Grocery receipts itemizing what was purchased. Alexandra's hand went into her purse and came up empty. I didn't know I had to keep them. It was errands. You can see groceries in her printouts. The judge looked at me. Ms. Thompson, did you mark groceries? Yes, I said. I've circled them in pencil and wrote split in the margins. For the May 7th grocery run at 132.42, I can attest I used part of that to make soup he ate. I'm not asking for that back. For the May 21st late night food delivery at 39.18, he was asleep and couldn't eat that kind of food. I'm including it. Kenneth shifted in the back row and started to speak. The bailiff lifted a palm and the judge didn't even look. Only parties speak. Alexandra leaned forward. Gas. I filled the tank. The judge turned a page. I see fuel charges. One is 18 miles from the home address at a location that doesn't align with appointments. Do you have anything to show those trips were on his behalf? She shrugged. I drove a lot. The judge wrote something on the file. Ms. Thompson, to me, your evidence of residence and caregiving is noted. Again, I'm not compensating you for utilities today. That's not what you're asking. On the card charges, I see a pattern of non-necessities. I also see at least one grocery run that appears plausibly shared. I nodded. I agree to deduct fair food. Do you have a specific? The judge asked. Yes, I said. June 2nd, 66:21 at Grocer's Market. We both ate that week. I'll remove that from my request. The judge tapped the pencil once more, looked at both of us and closed the file. Here's what I'm ordering. The judge leaned back, pencil still, and spoke like she'd said the same words 100 times. On the evidence before me, I find that the defendant used the decedent's debit card for personal expenses not shown to be on his behalf. I am awarding the plaintiff $1,884 in damages. Court costs of $95 are added to the judgment. She tapped the grocery entry I'd circled. I'm deducting one small food item as shared. Alexandra blinked like she hadn't heard right. What? This is small claims, the judge said, not unkind, not soft either. It's a money dispute. Title is not before me, and I am not making findings about the house. For context only, the transfer on death deed provided appears valid on its face. If you think there is a defect, file in the proper court. Today, I'm ordering repayment for misuse of funds. Alexandra's voice went sharp. But I'm the executor. Again, the judge said, no probate case is pending. If you want to open one, you may. It won't change this order. Payments are due within 30 days unless the parties agree in writing to a schedule. No contact that rises to harassment. Keep all communications in writing. She slid the file to the clerk and called the next case like we were already in the past tense. The bailiff's voice, case number 18, rolled us toward the aisle. We stepped out. The hallway was colder than the courtroom. Alexandra turned, words already burning. You will pay for this, she hissed, leaning in too close. Before I had to react, the bailiff moved between us. He was compact, with a kind face that held firm when needed. His name tag read Gonzalez. No, he said, palm up toward her. Court is over. Take it outside the building and keep it civil. Any issues you file. You do not harass in the hall. Kenneth bristled behind her. She's stealing. Sir, the bailiff said without looking at him. That's enough. Summer was at my elbow. She didn't speak. She just found my wrist and squeezed once, a heartbeat back in my arm. I kept my eyes on the elevators and my mouth closed. There weren't any lines left to draw that needed saying out loud. We waited for the elevator with a small knot of people holding manila folders. The doors opened. Alexandra and Kenneth hung back, then peeled off toward the stairs. Good. The ride down was quiet. In the lobby, Summer handed me my copy of the judgment. Take a photo, she said. I did, and then I put the paper flat in the binder under a fresh tab I hadn't wanted but had made anyway. Judgment. Outside, the sun came at us with that white noon glare. Summer shaded her eyes. You want lunch? In a minute, I said. I sat on a low planter wall, pulled out my phone, and opened a text thread already filled with single sentences. I typed, as per the court order, you owe $1,984 plus $95 court costs. I will set one pickup window for your personal items. Boxes will be on the porch. No entry. All communication by text. I hit send. The delivered check mark appeared. 3 dots blinked and disappeared. I didn't wait for a reply. We walked to the lot. Kenneth's truck idled 2 rows over. He watched us go but didn't follow. Summer drove behind me back to the house and parked across the street with her window down like she always did when she wanted to be near without hovering. Inside, I set the binder on the dining table, put the judgment under a paperweight, and took out a roll of tape and a Sharpie. The spare boxes I'd picked up from the clinic storeroom waited by the couch. I wrote A on the side of each and a short list. Bathroom, hair tools, closet, 3 dresses, hall table, purse, scarf. I wasn't a mover, I was a sorter. What belonged to her would go to her, nothing more. My phone buzzed. Alexandra. This isn't over, I typed back. Saturday, 10 a.m. Boxes on the porch, sign for pickup, no entry. Any other time is trespass. She didn't answer. I sent the same message as an email and saved a screenshot. Summer leaned in the doorway. You sure about Saturday? I can be here. I'm sure, I said. I'll record. That's it. The afternoon stretched, an ordinary one if you didn't look at the stacks of paper. I made a simple dinner, answered one message from Aunt Teresa with a photo of the court order, no more group chat, and turned off my ringer for a while. Jack waved from across the street when he checked his mail. I waved back. At 7, I laid out packing tape and folded the first box. I put Alexandra's things in carefully, the way you do when you don't want to be accused of breaking what you didn't buy. I printed a 1-page note, judgment amount, mailing address, and a line for her signature acknowledging receipt of boxes. No commentary. Before bed, I set my phone on the charger and opened the camera app to make sure the timestamp would show. I scrolled through the day, the courtroom, the seal on the judge's bench I'd framed by accident, the hallway, the sunlight on the courthouse steps. It felt like the end of something and the beginning of a rule I could keep. Saturday at 10 a.m, I set my phone to record and carried the first box out. Jack was already on his steps with a newspaper when I set the first box down. I propped my phone up against a potted plant, the red light steady. I laid the copy of the judgment on top of the stack, with a sticky note pointing to the amount. The porch boards were warm under my feet. At 9:59, a car eased to the curb. Alexandra climbed out, sunglasses on, hair glossy. Kenneth got out slower, scanning the street like somebody might be filming, which technically they were. Good morning, I said. My voice sounded like I'd practiced it because I had. Boxes are here. I pointed to the clipboard on the rail. Sign to acknowledge you picked them up. She spotted the paper under the tape. What is that? Copy of the court order, I said. The amount due is highlighted. There's an optional repayment schedule attached. 3 installments by the 1st of each month. If you don't agree to that, the full amount is due within 30 days, as the judge said. Mail only. Address is at the bottom. Kenneth tipped his chin at the phone. You recording us? Yes, I said. For everyone's protection. He looked at Alexandra. She smoothed the strap of her bag and walked to the boxes like she owned the act of walking. She picked one up and peeked under the flaps. You went through my things. I sorted them, I said. Nothing is missing. If you think something is, list it by text. She glanced across the street. Jack unfolded a page and didn't look up. The street hummed with a lawnmower 2 houses down and the low sound of a Saturday morning. She put the box down, took the pen from the clipboard, and scrawled her name on the line for received. She didn't touch the page behind it with the dates and amounts. I'm not agreeing to any schedule. That's fine, I said. Then the order stands. 30 days. Kenneth lifted 2 boxes at once and staggered just a little on the second step. He adjusted quiet. The court paper on top seemed to weigh more than the cardboard. Aunt Teresa's name lit up my phone. I let it go to voicemail. Alexandra took another box and slid the last one closer with her foot. Family would have worked this out, she said, softer than I expected. If you hadn't made it a thing... I didn't make anything, I said. I followed the paperwork. She looked at the door behind me, then back at the camera. Whatever line she was about to aim fizzled when she saw the red light. Enjoy your little house, she said instead, too light to land. She jerked her head at Kenneth. Let's go. They packed the trunk. I handed her a clean envelope with a second copy of the mailing address and the case number on the flap. She took it without looking and slid into the passenger seat. When they pulled away, the tyres didn't squeal. Kenneth didn't look back. I waited until their car turned the corner, then picked up the clipboard and the judgment copy. I took a photo of her signature and sent it to myself, then to the email thread labelled Alexandra Docs. My phone buzzed with a new voicemail from Aunt Teresa. I put the phone on speaker and set it on the porch rail. Her voice was tired. I don't like how any of this looks, but the judge spoke. Keep things quiet, please. I typed back. The pickup happened. No issues. I'll keep it quiet. Payments go by mail. Thank you for understanding. Jack stood, folded his paper, and crossed the street halfway. He didn't come onto the porch. He just lifted his chin. All right? All right, I said. Thank you for sitting out. He smiled like he'd known the ending and wanted me to catch up to it. Holler if you need anything, he said, and went back to his steps. I took the phone inside, locked the door, and swapped out the last interior lock, the hall closet that had stuck since winter. I'd already rekeyed the front and back on Wednesday. This was the straggler, a $10 knob I picked up on my way home from work. The screws bit, the latch lined up, and the door clicked shut the way it should. I made coffee. The house smelled like beans and lemon cleaner. I took the mug to the porch and sat where Dad and I used to watch dust creep up the block. The oxygen machine was gone. The hum now was just the street and a couple of birds arguing in the maple. My phone chimed. An email ping this time. It was a curt line from Alexandra. I signed for boxes, not agreeing to schedule. I replied, received. Amount due within 30 days per order. Mail only. Summer texted a minute later. How'd it go? I sent her a photo of the empty porch with the coffee mug in the corner. Smooth. She wrote back a heart and after a pause, proud of you. I started a load of my own laundry, folded Dad's old blanket and put it at the end of the couch. Lara's note, Jack's statement, the binder, everything we'd built, went onto the top shelf of the hall closet behind the new lock. Not to be dramatic, just to be done. The group chat stayed on mute. The house settled around me like it had been waiting to exhale. I walked back out and watched the light change on the porch rail the way Dad used to. The rule landed and stayed. I can love my family and still shut the door. My peace isn't up for negotiation.